She had the voice of an angel, the charisma of a queen, and the world at her feet. But behind the spotlight, Whitney Houston was spiraling. Her final days were a heartbreaking cocktail of pressure, loneliness, and the echoes of a life filled with unimaginable highs and devastating lows. This is not just the story of a superstar. It's the untold truth of a woman trying to hold on while the world watched her fall. Welcome to Black Icon, where we uncover the hidden stories behind the legends who shaped our culture. Whitney Elizabeth Houston was born on August 9, 1963, in Newark, New Jersey. Music was in her blood. Her mother, Cissy Houston, was a gospel legend. Her cousin, Dionne Warwick. Her godmother, none other than Aretha Franklin. Whitney was destined for greatness. By age 19, she was discovered by legendary music executive Clive Davis. He knew instantly. This young girl had a once-in-a-lifetime voice. In 1985, her self-titled debut album shattered expectations, delivering hit after hit. Songs like Saving All My Love for You and How Will I Know became global anthems. She wasn't just successful, she redefined what success meant for a black woman in music. With a voice that could silence a stadium, Whitney quickly rose to become the voice of a generation. To the world, Whitney was flawless. But behind closed doors, her life was anything but. Her family was deeply involved in her career. Her mother, Cissy, was her vocal coach, and her father, John Houston, eventually became her manager. But with success came tension. In the early 2000s, Whitney would later accuse her father's company of mismanaging millions of dollars. The betrayal cut deep. John Houston even sued his daughter for $100 million. He died before the case was resolved, and Whitney never fully healed from that emotional wound. Fame also placed an unbearable weight on her shoulders. She wasn't just expected to sing, she had to be perfect. The media placed her on a pedestal, then waited for her to fall. Every interview, every appearance, every outfit was scrutinized. Whitney once said, "They wanted me to be this princess, but I'm a real woman with real pain." That pressure, to maintain an image rather than live her truth, began to crack the foundation she had built. In 1992, Whitney married Bobby Brown, a union that would define much of her public narrative for the next 2 decades. What began as a passionate romance quickly spiraled into chaos, marred by rumors of infidelity, substance abuse, and violence. The media painted Bobby as the villain, but insiders say the relationship was complex. Both struggled with personal demons. Whitney wasn't a passive victim. She fought back, argued, and clung to the relationship even when it was clearly breaking her. They loved hard, but they also hurt hard. Friends described it as a toxic bond, one built on fame, codependency, and substances. Their daughter, Bobby Christina, was caught in the middle of this emotional storm. Despite their troubles, Whitney stayed in the marriage for 14 years. By the time she filed for divorce in 2006, the damage was already deep, and though she hoped for a fresh start, the scars remained. Whitney Houston's voice was a gift from the heavens, but addiction slowly robbed her of that divine power. Over the years, cocaine, marijuana, and pills became an escape from pain and from pressure. She entered rehab multiple times, always hopeful for a comeback. But addiction isn't a switch you flip off. It's a war, one that she fought, sometimes winning, often losing. The damage wasn't just physical, it was spiritual. It eroded her confidence, strained her relationships, and dimmed the light she once carried with ease. In that interview, when asked if she still used drugs, Whitney replied with a now infamous line, "Crack is whack." But the truth was complicated. Friends say she wanted to get clean, especially for her daughter. But the industry, the pressure, and the loneliness made it nearly impossible. Her voice, once crystal clear, began to falter. And still, she pushed on. She kept performing. She kept hoping. She kept trying. Because deep down, Whitney believed in redemption. February 2012. Whitney Houston checked into the Beverly Hilton Hotel to attend Clive Davis's annual pre-Grammy Gala. a party she had once ruled. It was supposed to be a celebration, a return, a spark of her former self. But those close to her say something was off. Her mood shifted, warm and glowing one moment, distant and restless the next. Staff at the hotel recalled loud music from her room late at night. Friends described her as both hopeful and haunted. She took the stage for what would be the last time, a surprise duet with Kelly Price at a pre-party. The crowd cheered. She smiled, but behind that smile was a woman exhausted, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. She was spotted walking barefoot through the hotel lobby hours before her death, looking agitated. Others said she spoke of the future with renewed energy. It's this contrast that makes her final days feel like a tragic contradiction, a mix of hope and farewell. No one knew that Whitney Houston was living her final chapter, not even Whitney herself. But the signs, they were there, subtle, painful, and, in hindsight, heartbreaking. February 11th, 2012, the day the music stopped. Whitney spent the early part of the day making phone calls, speaking to her mother and her daughter, Bobby Christina. Those conversations were described as loving, normal, nothing seemed unusual, but behind closed doors, her demons resurfaced. According to reports, Whitney had been using substances again. A mixture of drugs and alcohol was found in her system, including cocaine, marijuana, and sedatives. She drew a bath, and sometime between that moment and the next hour, Whitney Houston slipped beneath the surface, alone. She was discovered face down in the bathtub. Paramedics arrived too late. At 3:55 p.m., Whitney Houston was pronounced dead. She was 48 years old. The news sent shockwaves around the world. It wasn't just the loss of a singer, it was the loss of a voice, a daughter, a mother, and a symbol of what fame can give and what it can take away. Whitney Houston's passing wasn't just mourned, it echoed. Around the world, people grieved not just a fallen icon, but the woman they grew up with, the voice they danced to, cried to, lived with. Artists who once idolized her now stood on stage in silence. Because how do you honor a voice like hers? One that only comes once in a generation? The 2012 Grammy Awards paused their celebrations to remember her. Tributes poured in from legends and leaders alike. President Obama and Aretha Franklin expressed heartbreak. The world had lost its greatest voice. Whitney's funeral was held in her childhood church in Newark, New Jersey. It was filled with gospel music, prayer, and pain. Celebrities and loved ones sat side by side, mourning not the superstar, but the girl who started in a choir. But perhaps the most tragic echo of Whitney's legacy came just 3 years later, when her daughter, Bobby Christina, was found in eerily similar circumstances. Unresponsive in a bathtub, she never recovered. 2 generations lost to silence, water, and pain, and yet Whitney's light still shines. Whitney Houston was more than a voice. She was a spirit, a complex soul, both gifted and wounded. She soared higher than most, yet battled demons we couldn't see. Fame doesn't erase pain. Talent doesn't shield you from trauma. And sometimes the ones who shine the brightest fight the darkest battles. Yet through it all, Whitney gave us joy. Her music continues to heal, inspire, and move us. And maybe that's the lesson. Even in brokenness, beauty can be born. She was human. She was brilliant. She was Whitney. This is Black Icon, where we honor the lives behind the legends. If Whitney's story moved you, please like this video, leave a comment sharing your favorite Whitney memory, and subscribe for more untold stories of Black excellence. Her voice may be gone, but her echo remains.